the consumer sides are so evolved already,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's
yeah.
still a lot of cumbersome paperwork in B2B. It just doesn't make sense in this
Mhm.
21st century.
How much of that B2C experience in BNPL actually translates into B2B, and how does that impact like the business model now that it's more in the B2B side of things?
At first, I thought they are very similar, but they're
Mm.
totally different for a few reasons. It's not like we're building something that we think the customers want. We're building something that customers are telling us they want. I think there's a fundamental difference there.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to On Call with Insignia, where you go on call with leaders innovating the future of Southeast Asia's internet and digital economy, or as we like to call it, ASEAN Innovation. I'm your host, Paulo Aquino. And we're back with a new guest, actually. So, really excited to have this conversation with her. None other than Trasy Lou Walsh, who is the CEO and co founder of Fluid, company that Insignia Ventures partners recently invested in. We announced the investment this year and have really seen them grow leaps and bounds since over the past few months. So really excited for Trasy to share a little bit about the business, what they're doing in the B2B purchase financing space, B2B payment space, and the progress that they've made over the last few months since we partnered. And also share about her own kind of entrepreneurship journey. And I think she's had quite the background and also quite the context as well to be in her own entrepreneurship journey. So really excited to have her on. Thank you so much, Trasy, for coming on call with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me today, Paulu.
All right. Yeah. So I think first things first for our listeners out there, they're probably wondering what Fluid is. So maybe you can give us a quick rundown and then we'll get into the weeds of things.
Yeah, sure. Fluid is a B2B buy now, pay later startup in Asia. And our vision is really to streamline B2B payments so that the seller, the distributor especially, can really handle the payment seamlessly for the buyer. So whether you are thinking about as a buyer to pay now, pay on delivery, or pay with credit terms, we would love Fluid to handle them for you.
Yeah. So it's quite straightforward if you think about it. and but what is interesting is you mentioned like BNPL, and that does stem from your own background as well, having worked in a more
Mhm.
B2C kind of BNPL context, and we'll get more into that in a bit. But I wanted to first talk about this decision to start Fluid. It's still very much an early startup, and so I'm sure the memory is still fresh in your mind. Maybe you can bring us
Oh,
back to
yeah.
that to that decision. What was that moment like? Was it like a eureka moment, or was it like a decision made over several months to eventually start Fluid?
I do believe that entrepreneurship has always been in my heart and in my blood, but I just didn't really have a good idea to start something until Fluid's idea came to my mind. So what happened was when I was working at Atomi, the consumer buy now pay later startup, and we do have some clients asking for similar solution for the B2B buyers. And that idea really struck me, and then I started researching and realized that there are a number of similar startups popping up in the US and Europe that just raised a bunch of money. But always starting a company is always difficult without a co-founder. So like I pretty much just put the idea on the bag, and until Steven, my co-founder, reached out, and he's in product and tech, and he was like the head of fintech of Coupon in Korea at that time, and asked, hey, he was pretty bored in his job and wanted to do something exciting, and asked whether I want to build something together. And that's the moment that I think, oh, this is the time. I have a good idea and I have a co-founder that has skill sets that complement mine. Then I think, oh, okay, we should take a leap of faith and do it together. So that's the moment that I think it's really like the timing works and more than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really great to always have that kind of partner in crime who actually,
Yeah.
builds more confidence in whatever idea you have. You also have a third co-founder, Royan, as well. Maybe you can share a little bit about how she came into the picture.
Yeah, definitely. So Rorian actually met us a few months after we started Fluid. And at that time, we were talking to different VCs and about the idea. And one of the common area that they actually talked about is, hey, you need a CFO in your team that knows that financing. And which is true. My background is commercial and operations. When I was at Atomi, I was focusing a lot on expansion and growth and making sure that operations run well, whereas the debt financing side was handled by the group CFO. So I wanted to learn more about that area, and a friend of ours introduced us for me to learn more from her, and I just find her very talented and really understood what she was doing. And she used to be the head of Asia in Lendable, which is our private credit fund. And with that, then I'm like, wow, okay, this is really godsend that when I need somebody with that skill set, that person really pop up in my life through my friends. So we decided to ask Warren to join our journey.
Yeah, and I think it started out as kind of like a mentor kind of role, and then eventually
Yeah,
joined
really
in as
sharing a
a
lot of experience.
and joined in as a co-founder. And I think really important indeed to have kind of a CFO, especially with the nature of the business itself. And then I would think
Mm,
B2B a much larger kind of ticket of money flows going through the platform as
yeah,
well.
from the experience that have told me, there are quite a lot of other competitors also were stuck at growth because they were not able to raise debt financing. So that is a really key success factor of Atomi, where they were able to raise quite a bit of money to fund the loan book. So that's
Mm.
how they were able to compete without too much of a burden. So that's
Right.
exactly one of the important factors we want to make sure happen at Fluid.
Definitely, yeah, a stumbling block for a lot of lending fintechs, and sometimes it becomes so much of a constraint that they just end up starting their own kind of digital bank to have their own kind of like liabilities and the asset side, right?
Yeah.
So I was also curious about the early days as well at Fluid. I'm always interested in like the whole first few days of the first 100 days of a startup journey. Like, what were those like trying to put things together?
First 100 days, wow, it's a lot of VCs meeting. We decided to just go out to raise fund the first day we actually incorporated the company. We know we're in a lending business, we need equity to really fund the business, and at the same time with the equity to raise debt financing.
Mm,
So there's lots of VC meeting, but most interesting is that we always would work in my condo function room because it's free of charge and we can go there to actually have a meeting together. But it was really fun, like just three of us. Plus, I think it was two engineers, and we do have some friends like working part time for us because they know that it's not really part time; it's like for free, as they know that we are really starting out this journey. So we're very thankful that we have these friends really fighting alongside with us and helping us out at the first 100 days. So we were actually able to launch our MVP quite early on and be able to have our first client on the first month of starting. So that was really yeah amazing.
So maybe you can talk about that first client. Yeah, how did you guys manage to? What was the biggest lesson from that first onboarding, and how did
Yeah,
that translate into to future kind of client securing more clients down the road?
yeah. So it was actually a pretty interesting story when I thought about it, because before I even started Fluid, I was doing some research, right? Because we were just thinking about doing this idea, but we want to validate from some of the potential customers in APAC. So I just like doing my lead generation and find, hey, who will be the B2B marketplace in Singapore? And I found easy Logan, and I just basically LinkedIn message him and say, hey, I'm thinking about having this idea. You want to have a coffee chat to share about your challenge? And and he immediately said yes. I'm like, wow, how on earth this person is so nice just to come out for a coffee chat by just one message from me. Then after the first chat, he told me a lot of the challenges that he was having about securing financing and having a really seamless journey in providing credit terms to the client. And so he basically validated my idea and he was like, oh, you should go build it and I will buy it. And yeah, and he really encouraged me to build Fluid as a result. And also he fulfilled his promise to be one of my first few clients.
Yeah, so quite interesting. So you were already having that conversation with Logan even before starting Fluid, and eventually paid back as you began to develop the product. And Easy is also Insignia Ventures portfolio company, so really interesting to see those small world moments where you have those kind of partnerships and synergies happening. And
It's really
yeah,
helpful. Like he also definitely has been my reference to you guys when you guys invested, I
right,
guess.
right,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I guess
yeah.
it all came out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Came
it
together
all
well.
came together, and yeah, Easy and Fluid actually shared like a similar thesis about how the world should work in terms of like B2B supply chain and payments and purchases. Things definitely lined up there. And as you did mention, kind of Logan referred you guys to Insignia. Yeah, maybe you can bring us back to that moment when you met us, met the team, and what the partnership has been like since.
Yeah, Logan has been super helpful, where he actually pretty much just send me his BC list and say, hey, which one you want to talk to? Let me connect you. And we did talk to Insignia at the very beginning. Unfortunately, in my first round, you guys did not invest in me.
Oh,
But that's okay. And I think it was after we raised our first round, and my angel, one of my angels, connected me with Tim, who is on the IC of Insignia. But when I met Tim, I actually did not know about that. I was just sharing
right.
because he is a friend of my angels, and I'm just sharing like what we
And
what
Tim is
we
also an
do.
angel himself, so he's also pretty active in
Yeah.
the ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just sharing about what our business is about, and then he went to Europe and came back after 2 months, and then we talked again, and he realized, wow, you guys actually love your product a lot and learn a lot more than since we talked 2 months ago. And because of that, I think he brought our idea to the Insignia team, and from there, then we shared a bit more with the team, and then met England one-on-one, and then went through the ICN and got the term sheet within 2 weeks, I think. So it was
Right,
really
right.
such a blessing, really such a blessing for this funding environment to be able to move so quickly. So I'm very thankful for Insignia being our lead VC for this round. And experience has been great. The team has been very helpful. They work over the weekend to talk to some of our potential clients or even existing clients. I'm like, wow, this VC firm works really hard. And yeah, and at that time we were also having other ICs going on, but Insignia was like, okay, this is the bet that we wanted to make, and they just made a bet on us so quickly that I could not reject because you guys gave us a term sheet just on the week before my family and I went on holiday for Christmas, and I was like, oh,
Right.
it's such a great Christmas idea, and all the other VCs were having holiday. So they couldn't even talk to us until January.
Right.
So we're like, okay, this is the partner that we want to work with because you guys move fast, ask very great questions during the IC, and the team has been very helpful.
Yeah, that's always great to hear like the speed. I think it's definitely a classic like Insignia story. I did want to move now and more into kind of like the whole business of Fluid. And again, going back to the fact that you did have your background in BNPL and more on the B2C side. And the thesis of Fluid has been to bring that consumer experience of payment financing into B2B payments and commerce transactions. So yeah, maybe we can start there. Maybe with you sharing with our listeners how much of that B2C experience in BNPL actually translates into B2B, and how does that impact like the business model now that it's more in the B2B side of things?
At first, I thought they are very similar, but they're
Mm,
totally different for a few reasons. Number one is how we manage risk. So in B2C side, we actually could automate a lot of data point collection. And so we were able to actually provide the instant credit risk decisioning. However, in the B2B side, traditionally, a lot of banks and alternate lenders would look at financials and bank statements. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, there's not very mature open banking technology, or some of the countries don't even open that up. So for us to actually really provide a seamless credit and instant credit decisioning is not as simple as what we thought. We had to be creative. So for Fluid, we actually built our risk model powered by the suppliers' repayment data of the buyers as a part of the reference for our risk model to make the decision a bit more instant. So that's pretty much the first learning that we had. And then the second learning is for B2C, we actually have a very similar model across different countries, across different industries. But for B2B, different industries are so different in terms of how the business buyers pay back the supplier or distributor, how the transactions happen are so different. So for us, we actually have to customize our product for different industry so that we can scale quickly and enable the buyers and sellers to transact seamlessly. So I think those would be the two main learnings that we had and differences between B2C and B2B.
you did mention about the differences across industries. Maybe you can illustrate that a little bit more with an example of how exactly these can be very different.
Yeah, that's a very good question. For Fluid, when we first started, we actually went industry agnostic. If
Mm,
okay, we just send out a lot of emails or calls to see which industry actually pick up this model. And we found that FMCG is the one that we had a lot of tractions. FMCG, FMB, or like meat suppliers selling to business buyers, selling to restaurants. However, they don't really pay invoice by invoice. They only pay with a proof of delivery they see, and surprisingly, it's still very traditional where there is like a 3-color copy, and then
Mm.
once the goods are delivered, the driver would have
Right,
one.
right.
Oh, okay, the company would have one, the seller would have one, the buyer would have one, right? But without that, like you think about B2C, there's nothing like that. It's like you purchase online and then you pay later by installment. But in B2B, you have to see all these documents. And at the same time, there's so much dispute going on. Oh, okay, did my chicken arrive? Oh, actually, one chicken is spoiled, so I'm not gonna pay for that. So all this dispute would happen as well. That's why for us, when we're looking at FMCG industry, we have to cater to all that to streamline the payment. Whereas for the professional service industry, the buyer pays by invoice. And the invoice doesn't happen every day. It happens
Right.
maybe once every quarter. So the product would also have to cater to that. It's more like a milestone payment. For example, a marketing firm would be like, oh, I'm going to pay 50% before the project start and then pay another 50% after the
Right.
project start. So how do we cater to all these scenarios? Very, very interesting. I'm really fascinated by the B2B world.
I was curious about how this impacts your prioritizing like the product development and even on the operation side, because there's so many kind of considerations you have to take into like account, the cadence and the difference in terms and what they base those terms on. Yeah. So how do you think about prioritization across these different industries?
Yeah, definitely. One of the very, very important principle that we have in building the product is we don't build until we are asked to build by multiple customers, especially bigger ones. And that really is a great guiding principle. It's not like we're building something that we think the customers want. We're building something that customers are telling us they want. I think there's a fundamental difference there, and how we actually prioritize would be based on the impact to the business and what is the strategy of the business. So for us, we want to be the leader in the FMCG payment. That is the first goal that we have. Then we would focus our energy in making sure that the buyers and sellers in the FMCG space will be able to transact seamlessly. And that's also one of the reason selling points to Coca Cola. And at the end, we were able to secure that deal is they noticed that we were able to really build product cater to their needs. And they were also struggling to find a payment partner to solve their issues because the product in the market is just not suitable for the industry. So for our prioritization, we really would only build when we're asked to, instead of building something that we think the customer wants.
It's very customer first. And you did mention about Coca-Cola, which I did want to get into, and is one of Fluid's kind of more, I guess, prominent milestones over the past few months. Maybe you can share a little bit about the experience of bringing them on board, and what does this partnership mean for the future of Fluid, actually? Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole team was so happy when we signed a deal with Coca Cola. Having them as a strategic partner, it's a lot easier for us to introduce the fluid to the distributor and buyer. So our product actually is used by Coca Cola's distributor to sell product to the buyers, so that the buyers can pay seamlessly with different flexible payment methods to the distributor. And the problem we are solving is that Coca Cola has a lot of sales representatives spending a lot of time on collection. Drivers are collecting in cash, and distributors don't really get the money back. So with Fluid, they were able to really collect the money with QR code digitally and online. And then the sales of the Coca Cola and the distributor can focus on selling more product to the buyers, to the retailers, instead of instead of really spending time on collection. How it happened was it's just an idea when I asked a question to the POC. Like we met in a networking and I asked a question, do you have this problem? And then I think it was until 6 months later, he's like, hey, we really have this problem. Do you have
I
a
remember
product
that
ready for us to
conversation
use?
from 6 months ago.
Yeah, remember,
Yeah.
like he remember, I remember. Of course, I also like keeping him warm, like every 2 months, say
Right.
hi and that. But it was so great because we really use Coca Cola's feedback as a fundamental for us to scale with our FMCG distributors partners, even in Singapore and Malaysia, because the problems are actually very common across all. And with their feedback and the workshop really going on the ground to get the feedback of customer, retailer, and sales and distributor, we were able to really build a product that catered to the needs.
Yeah, and it's interesting because actually it could also provide like a template for kind of future quote distribution of the Fluid kind of service instead of having to focus on kind of individual kind of buyer supplier transactions. You can tackle a whole set of them that are happening within like a multinational kind of group like Coca Cola. So yeah, it is quite interesting way to approach a go to market. I did want to ask, for example, with Coca Cola, you had that relationship going on right now, really going great. How do you think about customer success then, and really maintaining these kinds of relationships with the customers and partners that you have at Fluid?
Yeah, definitely customer first. And also, like, we have a cultural value called build for long term. So whatever customer give us the feedback, we would take it and think about how would that look like long term? How would that solution look long term for our customer? Would we be able to actually solve the issues long term? So that's definitely how we started first. And then the second cultural value that we have is aim high and make magic for our clients. So that's definitely one important element ingrained in our commercial and account management team to make sure every time we do things for our customer, we want to really aim high here. We want to delight them with things that they might not have expected before.
And so you did start to talk about values. I was curious to know more about how you actually are building Fluid as an organization. And I can sense that a lot of the values actually come from the customer, very customer first as well. So you can talk about how that bleeds into the rest of the kind of like the company culture and how you're building, hiring people and retaining them in Fluid.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I do think that we need guiding principles
Mm,
in
for
our
sure.
culture and in how we work together. So when we had 5 team members, we already finalized the values
Right,
just
right,
to
right.
make sure that everybody is holding the same values when they work. So just now we mentioned we have build for long term. So whenever we build product, we think about long term impact to the customer. And number two is aim high, make magic. We want everybody to be making magic here. We don't want to do something that is easy. We want to really solve hard problem here. And how do we make magic to revolutionize this B2B payment industry? And regarding how we work, we have a few actually. Number one is always be driving. We want to make sure that people do the things that they love. And that's the only time that they can thrive. Everybody needs to be put in a position that they enjoy and really feel the impact they're making to the organization. And that's the time they thrive. So always be thriving is how do we as leader provide the environment and foundation for our team members to thrive. And the number four is win together. We want to make sure that we would, as a team, whenever we have credits, we would be winning together. And also, we have an individual one, which is called Own It. So maybe those two are a little bit related, as we want every individual to own their own KPI, own their own project. They have to take ownership. But when we win, we want to bring the whole team together and celebrate. And we also have the last one, which is called integrity in every action. We want to make sure that, especially in our business, it's about really handling money. We want to make sure that we have integrity in everything that we do, and we want to be trusted by our clients.
Yeah, and I've seen that you've been steadily growing the team over the past few months. I see the LinkedIn posts welcoming some of the team members as well. Yeah, how have these values attracted kind of the talent that you're looking for, and how you think about trying to yeah, the kind of talent that you want in Fluid?
Yeah, definitely. So number one is we definitely are looking for ambitious hustler who wanted to grow and who wanted to aim high, right? So that really ingrained in our hiring process. And one of the very important thing that I always say to even myself and my team is hire for potential. Don't just hire for experience. We look for individuals that wanted to grow with us and really unleash the potential at Fluid. We want them to own the things that they do and be able to tell us feedback. How do we build a product better? One of the process that we've done with our product team and sales team is we would bring new features to our client and ask, hey, is that what you want? How do you like about it? And before we launch, we don't launch anything without customer feedback. So I think that's how we really have this cultural values ingrained in our hiring, but at the same time in our daily work.
Yeah, and if you guys are interested in joining Fluid, I am leaving Tracy's LinkedIn in the description below. Be sure to reach out to her or any of the leaders at Fluid. I'm sure they'll be happy to chat. Even if you don't have the experience, as you did mention, if you have that kind of drive to make magic, as Tracy has mentioned, then
Yeah.
yeah, don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah. Totally fine. We have like fresh graduates joining us
Mm,
and they're doing really well. We have BD that just fresh off the boat
mm.
and joined us for
Really,
about
quite literally.
yeah,
Right, right, right.
1 to 2 months, and then he was already closing a pretty big deal. So very happy
Mm.
about really identify those young talents to join Fluid.
And so with all these kind of like young talents and talents with growing within the team, like where do you see Fluid growing towards in the next year or so? Like you did mention that you guys are focusing a lot on becoming the leader in FMCG kind of payments. Maybe you can break that down a little bit for us and then what that looks like in the next year or
Yeah,
so for Fluid.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in 2023, which is last year when we first launched, we focused on our checkout product where when you go to a B2B website to buy, then you can instantly get your credit term or split your purchase in installment. So that's our first product, which is very similar to the B2C consumer buy now, pay later side. Then in this year, we evolved where we seamlessly connect to any ERP or accounting system, so any approved buyer's transaction would be financed even before the invoices were issued, and they were able to buy the products in credit terms. So this is the focus of this year, and our product is mainly on FMCG industry. And for the end of this year, we will then focus to expand our product to 2 new industry. Happy to disclose that later, but it will be one is very similar to FMCG, which has high purchase, a small value, daily purchase, or even frequent purchase. And the other one is more on a less frequent purchase, which is a slightly different product, but the concept with the risk model is very similar. And then for next year, we will go into really looking at how do we use these 2 products to expand to other markets. Now we are in both Singapore and Malaysia. Next year, we're looking for at least 1 to 2 more countries to expand to. And at the same time, we'll also have a product that cater to all these buyers that we have acquired pretty much with no cost. How do we provide them a solution so that they can even pay their suppliers later? So now our
Mm,
go-to-market is with the supplier, then all the buyers can pay later. But now with this business buyer, how do we get them to use Fluid to pay other suppliers that are not on our network later?
right, right, right.
So that's for next year. And then after next year in 2025, we'll look at import and export pay later. So even when you're importing to, let's say, Singapore, Malaysia, all the countries that are in, and you're in the US, how do you actually use our service? So this is how we increase the addressable market for Fluid. I'm very
Right.
exciting about this pathway.
Yeah, that's I see it's in a lot of different directions, both on a geographical standpoint, with an industry standpoint, even the product itself, and really expanding what BNPL, like it's actually even more than just BNPL already in the next few years, as you mentioned, really just encompassing all of the different kinds of like payment use cases that buyers and suppliers have in their
Mhm.
day-to-day kind of operations. And now I wanted to zoom
Yeah.
out before I head into our rapid fire round and talk about what this whole venture means to you personally, especially having, I believe that this is your first kind of like venture as an entrepreneur. But you mentioned earlier that it has something that's always been inside of you and that you wanted to
Mhm.
do and has just been looking for the right time and the right people to work with. So yeah, what does it mean now for you to actually be actually in the midst of doing all of these things and building
Mhm.
Fluid?
Personally, I really enjoy my journey so far. There are definitely ups and downs and surprises, but I enjoy every single moment. When I first started, I thought that I could control my time better as an entrepreneur. However, you realize that you have so many things to do that you probably have less time, quite a lot of less time as a result. One of the very important, I think, alignment that we co-founders have is go big or go home. Really, we want to really use Fluid to revolutionize the B2B payment industry. So you can pay now, pay on delivery, pay later seamlessly anytime, anywhere. So that's really our vision. And we would make all the surrounding workflow to be so seamless that you almost think like you purchasing your supplies like how you were purchasing goods on like Shopee or Lazada.
Mm.
It's that like instant
One
convenience
click,
that we're looking at.
check out.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, got it. Then yeah, make the payment. So that's
Right.
really what we want to do for Asia.
Mm. Yeah, and it's quite an interesting mission and one that is, I think, embedded into a lot of other missions of other B2B businesses that we've been seeing, really improving e-commerce for B2B across the board. So you have folks like Logan as well building it in their own section of this. So it's really interesting that everybody's pushing this forward, and I call it like the smartphoneization of B2B, making things a lot more
Yeah,
efficient for the
exactly.
consumer. Yeah.
Yeah, you just think about the consumer sides are so evolved already,
Right,
and
right,
there's
right.
still a lot of cumbersome paperwork in B2B just doesn't make sense in this 21st century.
Right, right.
Mm.
On that note, I'm gonna get into our rapid fire round to cool down a little bit from our from our sharing
Yeah, sure.
on the show. So some quick answers, quick questions, quick answers. First up, what superpower of any one of your C-level colleagues would you want to have?
Oh, I think one really interesting skill set that Stephen had, I don't know how to call it, but when there's a very tight situation, he can just crack a joke, and then all of a sudden everybody will go like laughing. So I really want that, as I do believe that sometimes I could be quite like demanding, just making sure, hey, have you hit, our goal? Why are you not hitting our goal? What's the issue? What's the request? Let's solve it together. But yeah, and Stephen does have a more relaxed management style, and so it's actually a very good combination together.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Having humor can be useful
Oh yeah,
at
humor.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
If you'd be invited to produce a Netflix series, what would be the title of the show?
That's a very good question. I would be thinking about how to raise a startup while raising three kids. How to build a startup while raising three young children, because I am mother of three young children, and Fluid is my fourth. But juggling all of them together needs a little bit of skill sets, time management, putting things together. So I think it will be quite an interesting Netflix for a really ambitious entrepreneur who also want to build a family to watch.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up, like any particular, I guess, something that you've learned from throughout this journey so far of raising four kids.
Yeah, four kids. I think number one is pick the right husband. Uh, I do think that my husband, I'm very thankful to have him, that he is also very hands-on with the kids. But at the same time, we need to, as a team, plan our career together. So before I started Fluid, he was actually an entrepreneur as well. He has his own business. And the timing works where when I am building Fluid, he's now having a more stable job, and he would be able to actually have more time with the kids. So I do think that allocation of tasks in the household and making sure we do have at least one dominant person in the household to take care of the children, the real children, while I'm taking care of the fourth one,
Yeah, yeah.
is very important. And at the same time, be understanding. Otherwise, you would not be staying married still.
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, that's very intuitive, but also it takes a lot of communication to actually do it.
Yeah.
Looking back now,
Yeah.
what is a skill? It could be a soft skill, a hard skill you believe you should have learned back in your time as a student.
As a student, what is the skill that I want to learn? I always wanted to learn more about how to build a career as a woman, which I feel like is not really. So there are a lot of topics about differences, like equality and all that. But when I look back, as a woman, if you want to have children, you want to get married, you want to have your own company, you need to plan it well. And definitely there are times that I thought, oh, okay, I would prefer to have started a company earlier and made it like late, maybe late 20s or mid 20s already. So, okay,
Right,
just
right.
dreaming here. Oh, successful then, give birth, and you would have a lot of like freedom and wealth to build a family together, right? So that could be something that I sometimes would be thinking. But of course, I love my own timing now. I gave birth first and then have this fourth child, which also works out quite well. But just need a little bit more planning in a career as a woman, because
Right.
giving birth does actually slow you down. Unfortunately, that's a fact where you have to really, really be a mom, breastfeeding, taking care of the children. That's something that only women can do. Yeah. So I wish I would have a little bit more learning about it. And of course, another thing is personal finance and all that at school, which I think nowadays should have taught more. Like, how do we actually teach our children how to be an entrepreneur, how to manage your finance more? And those are the most important skill set that we have to do every single day. But the school
Yeah,
doesn't seem to actually
exactly.
spend too much emphasis on that.
Right,
So
right,
now
right.
actually there are some classes that my children are going to make like make some cupcakes and sell it and see whether they can sell it. I think those are brilliant. I wish that we had that earlier in life.
they can also just look to you as an example and see what you're doing at work. If you could pick anyone alive or dead to be your 24/7 executive coach, who would it be? And what's one thing that you would want to get or learn from them?
Oh, I was just talking about it with my husband this morning. It's probably Martin Luther King because I want to learn how to be influential and inspiring. And I think as a leader, especially as a founder and CEO, super important to have that skill set to really move the team forward. Yeah, I wish I could learn a thing or two.
But you have already done a little bit of that already within your team at Fluid, and on your two co-founders as well as the rest of the team, and a team that is growing once again. Yeah, thanks for coming on call with us, Trasy. It's great to learn more about Fluid. Introduce us to the company. I'm sure in the next year or maybe in the next few months, we'll have maybe you or Steven or somebody from the team to come back on the show and share with us more good news about the company and how it's growing. So excited to see more of that on LinkedIn or on the news. But in the meantime, again, yeah, if you do want to join Fluid or if you're in the FMCG industry or in any other industry also facing kind of challenges with your kind of suppliers or buyers side of things, Tracy's the person to talk to. So do make sure to reach out. And yeah, in the meantime, thanks again
Yes.
for coming on call. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. Really lovely talking to you, Paulu, and everybody on the call. Have a great day.
All right. Yeah. Have a great day, guys. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.